Hey, Sarah.
How are you? What's going on this week?
Yeah, things are good. It's been one of those weeks. I don't know if you have these with your kids, but where there's been a lot of fighting in my house. So, especially the 8 and 6 year olds have been getting into it, but also like really wanting to hang out with each other 24/7. So there's not really like a way to like pull them apart from one another because they just want to be together, but when they're together, they're fighting. So a couple nights ago, actually, you might think this is funny. They decided they wanted to do a spend the night in my 8-year-old's room. And so just to give a little bit of context about like the personalities I'm talking about, my 8-year-old is she's really a force of nature and has always been very loud and outspoken, which I love about her. But also strong emotions come out, and she's tenderhearted also. But my 6-year-old has always been the one that has just been, I don't know, much more laid back and like just like a little cupcake, just so sweet and also very tenderhearted and eager to please. So
Is she easygoing?
yeah, very easygoing.
Okay,
Yeah, very.
I see that.
So easygoing, but she decided to sleep in the 8-year-old's room, and all of a sudden I'm sitting downstairs. We just turned the TV on because we just put the kids to bed. I start hearing this screaming upstairs, and the girls run downstairs, and it turns out my 6-year-old had given the bird to the 8-year-old. And my 8-year-old's like, she showed me her middle finger, and
Oh my God.
I know. You would just never expect that from my 6-year-old ever. So the 6-year-old comes down bawling. They had gotten into it, and apparently she had seen another kid at school doing this gesture and decided it was an appropriate time to do it to the 8-year-old.
Okay, but did she use it with proper context?
I don't think she knew what it meant, but she knew it meant something bad. And so I was like, do you know what that means? And she didn't exactly know what it meant. But she did mean to give it to the 8-year-old, just to let the 8-year-old know to step off and leave her alone. So that was interesting. I was laughing so hard I was almost crying and trying to hide it at the same time because I don't want to like condone that sort of behavior. But it's hysterical that it's coming from my sweetest, like most tenderhearted little sweetheart.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Of all your 3 children, she is the last one I would expect that from.
I know.
She is so sweet.
I know. It just really speaks to like they're really seeing a lot from their peers and learning, and that's one thing they're learning. So,
lovely.
I know, right? Yeah, lots of fun. So.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
I know.
You know what? It's just so funny. I hadn't told you this, but it was probably 2 or 3 nights ago. We put our girls in the bath. So we'll just stand right outside the door and we can talk about things that we know that they're not listening to during this time. If we want to talk about something that we don't want to wait until they're in bed for.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple nights ago, we were standing right there talking about something, and we heard my oldest daughter. First, we heard a splash and a cup drop, and I knew they love to set up little toys on the edge of the bath, and I always am telling them, don't let it fall over. It floods the bathroom floor. But I heard something fall, and then my oldest daughter, she yelled, "Oh, S-H-I-T."
She did?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Now, unfortunately, I don't think she learned that at school. I'm afraid she learned that at home.
Oh no.
But my husband was like, well, she used it properly.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's so funny.
Were you laughing or did you not know what to do?
No, I was
Yeah.
laughing so hard. And then we both, we're right there outside the door. So we look around. And of course, like a little cup of water had spilled. Not a big deal. And she's looking with her big hazel eyes. She's looking at us like she knew she
like,
said something.
uh-oh.
Yeah. But my 3-year-old is just looking just as terrified. And my husband and I were laughing so hard. And then they started laughing. I was pretty much crying.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it turned out it was like this really joyous moment.
That's hysterical.
And we talked about it. And my husband is always, he always wants to encourage confidence with girls and strength
Right.
and being able to say what they want to say. And so he, I was so proud of him. He talked about like, you used that in the right context, but that's a word we can never use at school because it's a bad word. And we kind of
Right.
talked through that. It was the first time we had talked really about what a bad word was. But
so funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny we had a similar story.
Yeah. My kids don't even know. My 8-year-old asks me, what are the bad words? And I'm like, if you don't know yet, let's just leave it that way. I'll let you know if one comes out. I'll let you know.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, she still doesn't really know. So it hasn't come online yet, but that's hysterical that.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
It's so funny. I remember when I learned what the F word was, and it was, I was probably 6 or 7, and a neighbor was flipping me off, and my sister and I didn't know what it was, and then of course it was a boy, and he said this means, and he said the word, and so then my sister and I were kind of running around the front lawn, and we were yelling the word. And my mom ran out, and she grabbed us and pulled us right inside, and she said, "Oh, we need to talk about this."
Yeah.
But it stayed, it's a fresh memory for me, because it was so impactful to be learning, like, oh, bad words exist.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden it comes online, like the consciousness. It's like,
Yes.
oh, okay, got it. Now I understand. Yeah, that's cute.
That's so cute.
Yeah. How was the rest of your week, though? How's everything else going?
Oh, everything's going good. I had in my notes page, so I have a Megan's notes page. And I'm always taking notes about things you teach me or questions I had. And I had in my Megan's notes page a couple weeks ago that I wanted to ask you. So silly, but it was important. I wanted to ask you, how do you wear your hair when you're running? Because we both have one row of hair extensions.
Oh, yeah.
And in working out, for me, my ponytail can get heavy or it pulls down a little bit. So for a while, I was just kind of doing a low ponytail, which is not my favorite look, or I would try it up high. And it hadn't come up that I asked you, but in the meantime, in the last 3 days, I saw a video on Instagram of a girl showing like the best running ponytail, and she had really thick hair. I'm not sure if it was extensions or not, but either way, it wouldn't matter. It looked like hair that would be heavy.
Okay.
And I've tried it the last 2 classes, and my last 2 Orange Theory workout classes, and it's amazing. It's
Really?
life-changing. Yes.
I didn't know there was a way to innovate on the ponytail, but I'm very
didn't either.
interested.
Okay, I knew you would be. So
Yeah.
Okay, so it's doing a ponytail about the top mid place in your head. So for us, if you have one row of extensions, it's going to be right over
Okay.
your extensions.
Okay.
And you're pulling your hair back, brushing, and using a thicker rubber band, starting the ponytail the way that you normally would. So my ponytail would usually go around, the band would go around 3 or 4 times if it's a really stretched out one. So doing the first 2 loop arounds, then you separate the hair in the ponytail in half and pull up the top half. So it's pulled up in one hand and then wrapping the rest of the ponytail 2 more times with the band. And what it's doing is it's tightening the bottom half of your ponytail.
Okay.
And so it's making it less heavy and tighter against your scalp. And then the top half of hair kind of flips over the top of those 2 bands. And it creates like this cute little extra bump of volume.
Oh, how cute.
It looks from the side, it looks like a perfect ponytail. It looks like you've got a little bump with a little bit of volume, but I like to make everything as efficient as possible. It is tight to your scalp. And so I'm doing these Orange Theory classes where I'm running, 3, 4, 5 miles, and we're running hills and intervals, and it's fast. And before this, I would be redoing my ponytail in the middle of class because I'm running so hard. It's pulling down the weight of the extension. I don't want it to damage my real hair. Well, these last 2 classes, this ponytail has stayed perfectly put.
Really?
And it's efficient and it's cute.
Which is my very interesting.
I know.
I'm just pulling my hair back now just to envision what it would look like. Yeah, that sounds. I usually have a low pony.
Do you have below?
I do a low pony, right? And I tend to wear a baseball hat or a visor when I'm running. But I love visors because I used to be that my ponytail could go through the visor on top of my head. And so the visor would go more like a headband and keep the rest of the flyaways off my face. But I stopped doing that high pony once I got extensions. So I'll try this out and see how that works. I'd be happy to find a way.
Yeah, everybody's trending page is different on Instagram, of course, because of the algorithm. But for me, it's trending like crazy right now. So I'm seeing a lot of different influencers doing this perfect running pony. But yeah, I'll wear it next time I see you.
Yeah, I'll try it myself. I can definitely envision how to do that.
And it made me, I felt like I was able today in the class this morning, I felt like I was able just to run faster because I wasn't worried about my ponytail sagging down, and now I'm just going to have to quickly redo it.
It's like running with pants that are too big and falling down. That's also just so distracting. It's distracting when you have to do all the, fix your clothes or fix your ponytail. And
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Irritating. I know. That's happened to me before too. Yes. It's like having the perfect outfit and hairstyle creates a much better workout. Yeah. A much more efficient workout.
I agree. Yeah. I can get more in the zone for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone to Platinum Perspective. This is the podcast about beauty, travel, luxury, and more. I'm your co-host, Sarah.
And I'm Megan. Sarah and I are best friends who put the work in to get the most out of life so you don't have to. Okay, so for today, we are going to be discussing a trip that Sarah and I took over New Year's. I would say usually we are the experts on all things travel. We research everything as much as we possibly can. So this is going to be fun to discuss because this is a good example of how things don't always go perfectly well, no matter how much planning you put into a trip. Because we had a lot of twists and turns on this trip, I would say, that didn't go exactly the way we had planned. But, being adaptable and flexible in the moment always helps. And going with the expectation that not everything's going to go your way. And it didn't this time. It probably won't ever in the future, all the time. That's just how life is. Sometimes things go awry.
And when it doesn't go the way you planned, sometimes it can be a funny story for the future.
So I think this is going to be funny to unpack together and talk about. I'm really interested to hear your perceptions of that trip. That said, the company was fantastic. I was so glad to be there with you. It was a lot of fun. I think our families had a blast. But we could dive a little bit more into logistics, I'd say, and probably plan the optimal trip to Tahoe next time based on our experience. So, okay. So we are going to give our candid reactions to what we planned. Let's start with some rapid fire. I made you some rapid fire questions, Sarah. Ooh. Are you ready?
Okay, but wait, I got to ask you these ones back too, right?
Okay, because we can do it both ways. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, what do you rate our trip to Tahoe?
Ooh, I never give any vacations a poor rating because I love just to make the most out of being on vacation. But this one was tough. I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, that's about right. I would say I just based only on logistics and honestly, temperament and personality on my side in the family, just while we were there. I would say I gave it about a 4 out of 10. I know.
You had a tougher time than I did.
I know. Yeah, I did. I could not predict that my 3-year-old was not going to like the snow. And that was honestly, that was the hardest part about, I think, this whole trip was like, oh, wow, you really don't like to be cold.
She really doesn't like the snow.
She doesn't. No, she doesn't like to be cold. And to her, I guess thinking about it coming from her side of the things, she is very, very skinny. So I don't think she holds in much heat. So she probably feels a lot colder than we feel too. So, okay. Question 2. What was the most memorable moment in recollection of that trip?
For me, hands down, it was snowboarding with my girls. And I think the snowboarding aspect of the trip overshadows a lot of the challenges we had because my goal of this trip was to take my 6 and 3-year-old daughters snowboarding for the first time, really. My 6-year-old had tried it before, but not really done it. And I just have these amazing memories, and we have pictures and videos from this trip where they both snowboarded and they loved it.
Aww.
And it was so special. And months later, they're still talking about it. So that was
sweet.
A really special mom moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Aww.
How about you? What was your memorable moment?
I would say probably finding my moment of zen at the Ritz outside. After everything had gone wrong that day. We'll dive more into that in a second, but it was really one of the last things we did there too. Was go to the Ritz and just see the grounds. And I went and had that outdoor barbecue with my 3-year-old, and it was a great time. So.
I mean, to be fair, most of my life's most memorable moments have been at a Ritz. They're good moments.
I know. You can't beat that service, that atmosphere.
No.
I mean, they just do it right.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Will you ever, this is question number 3, this leads right into it. Will you ever not stay at the Ritz again?
The next time we go to Tahoe, we are definitely staying at the Ritz.
Okay.
I had a good time with where we stayed and not as many challenges, and we'll get into that. But I can definitely see optimizing and leveling up a Lake Tahoe trip with staying at the Ritz.
Yeah, I agree. I could see staying somewhere else in Tahoe. But I think the best trip, the gold standard trip I would have for myself going forward would be going to stay at the Ritz. That would be the best experience, I think.
We'll do that next time.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we'll just have an all positive review and not the funny blooper review we're about to get into.
Okay.
So I think then with that said, jumping right into it, it's important to note we have only been friends for about 8 months right now. I think, has it been 8 months?
Isn't that crazy? I feel like I've known you a whole lifetime.
I know. It's crazy, but then it makes so much sense to me. So it's not crazy.
Yeah.
But we went to Lake Tahoe with our families together for New Year's Eve, and we planned the trip after only knowing each other for, I think, 3 months, 4 months. Yeah. Which I have never gone on a trip with somebody that I just met.
I haven't either. I actually haven't traveled with friends. I don't think ever. I've traveled a lot with family, but not friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just happened really organically.
Yeah.
We met. I know we've shared previously the story of how we met, but we met, and it was a really fast romance. And our families just fell in love with each other.
Yeah.
Our daughters love each other. Our husbands love each other. We love each
The
other.
perfect fit. I know. It's so
I
nice.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. When we were planning a trip, it was a no-brainer. We were like, I think we had shared that we go to Tahoe often. We grew up in California.
Yeah.
We love snowboarding. And you had shared that you wanted to go to Lake Tahoe again because you had tried it before, but hadn't really had a great trip yet.
Right. Yeah. We were trying to figure it out. I mean, I think we're still trying to figure it out, but figure out Tahoe, where you should go with families is a little bit different than where you should go, as singletons. Like there's different parts of the mountain and they have very different vibes.
Yes.
So it does take a little bit of experience and or research to figure that out.
Which I think that we thought we were bringing that experience and that research, which we do have that experience. But I think what we learned is that we don't have that experience traveling to Tahoe with children.
Right.
My husband and I have been going, he's been going since he was a child. We've been going together. We've been together almost 20 years. We've been going together since we first met. He taught me how to snowboard when I was 21 up there. And we've been going ever since. But I think the first mistake that we made with this trip is we planned this trip for New Year's Eve. And in retrospect, every single New Year's Eve of my 20s should have taught me to never go anywhere on New Year's Eve.
I know. It's never really the best time to travel.
No, it's always a mess.
It is. Yeah, it's a mess. And this one was from a different perspective of the weather being so crazy when we went up there too. It wasn't just New Year's Eve. It was like, and there's a huge blizzard coming your way. Now drive through it.
Yes.
That was crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that was the other piece that we could optimize is not traveling when there's a huge blizzard.
Right.
We had been watching the weather and like I said, we had gone up hundreds of times, but there was really never a time that there was a storm like the one that we were seeing coming into Tahoe. So we thought we had timed it perfectly and we were driving in, but unfortunately, we got stuck in the middle. But anyways, should we jump into how we got to Tahoe and the different ways to travel to Tahoe?
Yeah, sure. So we are both from Northern California, so we are pretty close, about a couple hours, 3 hours away from Tahoe by car, normally if there's no traffic. So we drove in. You can also fly into Reno and make that drive up to Tahoe from that airport. There are, like Sarah was just mentioning, weather concerns. So you got to keep your eye out for weather. And even if you're flying into Tahoe, you're still going to have to drive to whatever destination you've rented for yourself to stay at. So definitely want to keep eyes on that. So I would say for us, the drive was great. We got great advice from your husband, Dave, who told us to go ahead and get in the car and make sure we're in the car and leaving by 8 a.m. that morning. Because not only did we know there was snow coming in, but also because it was New Year's Eve, the day we were leaving, we knew there was going to be a lot of traffic. And historically, there had been traffic on New Year's Eve going up in the past for you guys. So that was great advice from you guys. I think we got on the road right at 8, like you guys told us, and we were there really fast. I mean, I think we got there. It wasn't within 3 hours. We've done it in 3 hours before. This was about a 5-hour trip, I would say, to get there. So we got there just after lunch, checked into our condo, and we waited a little while longer for you guys to get there. And I'll toss it to you to tell us how that drive went.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm so disappointed that we didn't take our own advice. My husband had great advice to leave at 8 a.m. And, prior to having kids, I was a very prompt person. I was never late, always early to things. sometimes with a 3-year-old and 6-year-old, leaving on time doesn't happen. So we actually left at 8:20, which didn't feel that late, just 20 minutes past when we had advised for you guys to leave.
Right.
We felt great about ourselves. We were on the road. Then we did make a pit stop in Auburn, which is right before you kind of start going over the mountain into Lake Tahoe, and we stopped at In-N-Out to use the potty and get some French fries.
Yum. Yeah, we should have done that.
They were so good. Well, it was probably good you didn't, because that extra probably 10 or 15 minutes we were there, we think put us about 30 minutes behind you guys. And inevitably, it ended up taking us 9 hours to get from the Bay Area to North Lake Tahoe. We were staying at the Northstar Resort, and it took us that much extra time because we got stuck in the middle of a blizzard, which has never happened to me before. It was a very emotional, very scary situation. We were driving up the mountain, texting with you guys. You were coming down the mountain. You were getting into the resort. Everything was great. And what happened is the storm kind of came in a little bit earlier than expected, and the visibility became limited. So traffic slowed down, and then it became so limited that there were a lot of accidents. And I had never seen this happen in my life, but cars were getting in accidents right in front of us, slipping on black ice.
Wow.
Not accidents that were hurting anybody. No person was injured, but damaging cars, preventing cars from driving. It was really scary. My husband was not as scared. He's driven in Tahoe a lot. He is a confident driver, and he had a lot of confidence in the vehicle we have. He has a brand new 4Runner that is great for driving in the snow, but he was tense and really focused while he was driving. I was silently crying in the passenger seat.
Oh,
I didn't want my girls.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I wanted to be strong. I didn't want my girls to feel anything was wrong, because they were rolling down the windows and putting their hands out and feeling the snow and laughing, and they were full of so much joy in this journey because we don't have snow where we live. So this was exciting for them, and they were feeling like the vacation vibes, and I didn't want to damper their experience. But long story short, because this is a really long story, my husband ended up following one truck that seemed to be a local who was very skilled in driving in the snow. We stayed right behind that truck and drove all the way up the mountain, down the mountain, and into our resort. But when that truck pulled over to scrape their windshield, we did too. Mm-hmm. We just stayed right behind them, and they kind of created a path for us. But there was a point where I looked behind us, and there were no cars behind us. And so all of those cars, we know now from the news that a lot of those cars stayed the night on the mountain before they could get help. So we steadily, we slowly and steadily made it to the resort. But we were a full 4 hours after you guys, just based on that 30-minute differential in time.
Yeah, it was on our side, just the mood on our side was like so optimistic. Like, they're going to be here soon and they're going to stop at the grocery store for us down in down the mountain. Kings Beach. There you go. And because you offered to get us some food, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll send you some ideas. And then turned into, wow, oh my gosh, they're just stuck on the mountain. And it was scary. That was scary, like just on our side, like waiting for you guys and seeing the weather deteriorate so fast. Because when we went through, we were seeing, like, especially after the Donner Pass, we were seeing some indicators that things were getting rough. Like we saw people getting stuck trying to get back on to the interstate to get going back up to the mountain, and like snowplowers were out there sort of blocking these exits. People couldn't get on, get back off, and we're like, well, we're not going to get off, because if we get off, we're not going to be able to get back on. Everyone's having to dig themselves out. And coming from Florida, it's definitely was like shocking to see that, but I could just tell, like, we just need to get to the hotel and then we'll be fine. So yeah, I'm sorry you went through all that. That sounds very stressful.
It sounds very It was very stressful. I do think, though, it's important to say that, we've been up to Tahoe so many times, 100 times. And this is the one and only time this has happened. And
Yeah.
I think that, in retrospect, what could we have done differently? We could have left at the time that we knew was the right time to leave. But
Hindsight, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to,
Yeah.
sometimes hard to do just to get the kids out on time. I don't know why we were on time, besides we were just somehow on time that day. But
I don't think that this story should prevent future Lake Tahoe trips, or this experience should because it is one in a million. It hasn't ever happened to us before.
Right. And I think something to note too is that you guys had a car that was really good for snow.
Yes.
And a lot of the cars that maybe didn't make it didn't have the equipment you guys had.
They did. Yeah. I do think having a car that drives well in the snow is key. But yeah, that was just the beginning of the trip. But I think, so as we mentioned, we were staying at Northstar Resort, and we like to do a lot of research. And we had done a lot of research in choosing where we were going and where we were staying. Mm-hmm. So Lake Tahoe has two sides. It has the South Lake Tahoe and North Lake Tahoe. Mm-hmm. And South Lake Tahoe, I stayed there a lot in my 20s. It is next to Reno, so it has casinos. It's really popular for younger people. It's got this kind of party vibe, but it's not necessarily like the family vibe that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's where we used to go. So that's why I've been picking your brain about North Tahoe, because we started out going to South Tahoe, going to Heavenly. And it was fine before we had kids. Like, I just didn't notice the grunge. I didn't notice any of the casinos, really. I don't know why, but it just didn't bother me. And then having kids does change your perspective. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want my kids around this. And there's, Eric had an experience picking up food where some guy just like walked up to him and was drunk and just way too close. And, Eric was like, this is just not the vibe that we're looking for our kids. So I was excited to try North Lake Tahoe. I thought that does seem to have a more family-centered vibe.
Yes, it definitely does. And we have been going up there for years. We love it. It's just a bit nicer overall. It's definitely, there's more families. You are able to walk around town in Kings Beach. Although we didn't do that on this trip because of the storm.
Right.
But yeah, it doesn't have casinos. It doesn't have gambling. It doesn't have that party vibe. So it's definitely our choice at this stage in our life.
Yeah. And I do like, I do like the Northstar Resort the best so far.
Yes.
I do think, and that's where we went this past time. I do think that what seemed to be the atmosphere we were looking for with a village, and you could walk to restaurants and things like that. And it was very, very family friendly. So,
yes. And I think when we were doing our research, the 3 places that we researched were Palisades, which was formerly known as Squaw. And I've been there before, but I've never stayed at the resort. But it's definitely still an option that I would like to look into. And then we researched Northstar. Northstar is really sentimental to me because it's where my husband taught me how to snowboard when I was 21. And it was so hard for me to learn how to snowboard as a young adult. And We almost broke up. No. But I pushed through to learn because I, back then envisioned having, this is the man I'm going to marry. I'm going to have children with him. He is passionate about snowboarding and he's really good at it. And I want to do this with our family. And, all these years down the road, it was exciting to me to stay there because I know the mountains so well. And I wanted to have that moment of bringing my kids there. So we researched that one a lot and we're leaning towards that one and ultimately picked it. The third place, which is also on Northstar's property that we had researched and you originally booked, was the Ritz Carlton. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm the reason that you changed your reservation.
Well, that and the cost. I mean, I made the reservation like a year ago thinking, this will be great. And then came back to it and was like, what? That's how much it costs. I can't believe I booked this. And luckily, I'm sure I booked it back then thinking I know I can cancel it later, but I can't book it later. That's the problem. Right. Is it fills up so fast from the reservation standpoint. Right. And what we need, there's not very many of, which is like a 3-bedroom if it's available. 4 bedrooms, even better. They do have those there at the Ritz, but you have to book them. You have to book them as soon as they come available, like a year in advance sometimes, depending on when you want to go. And we wanted to go at a very, popular time for New Year's Eve. So, I think I looked at the price and was like, oh my gosh, I was crazy to book this. So, and then you found the Airbnb condos in the village.
Right. So I, even though I had been to Northstar so many times, we had never actually stayed at the resort because we have a good friend that owns a condo very close to the property. But knowing that this was a trip that we were bringing our kids, I wanted the convenience of staying on the property and just not having to get in the car at all, which that's what we were able to do. And that was really nice. But we found some great Airbnb condos at Northstar Resort. So for my family, we prefer to stay in a 2-bedroom resort, or 2-bedroom condo or suite anywhere we go. But we can make it work with a 1-bedroom if it's, not an extensively long trip. And if the couch has a pull-out bed. So we were able to find a really beautiful 1-bedroom condo at Northstar with a pull-out couch in the living room. And we were excited about it because we planned this trip probably, was it 2 months before New Year's Eve?
Probably like October-ish, right? So,
yeah. So it wasn't as far out as one would typically book a New Year's Eve trip. There were very limited options when we booked it.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
And we found for us and we booked a 3-bedroom condo that was at the Northstar Village also just through Airbnb. And it seemed to be a better price than staying at the Ritz at the same time. Definitely a lot cheaper. But then we went back and did some research here to see how much could we spend, how much could we save if we booked at a different time next time. And so it looks like if we just had decided to go in March rather than go over New Year's Eve, we would have saved between 60 and 70% on both of our rooms, which is like a huge savings.
It's massive.
Right. Yeah. Big savings. And then if you look at the Ritz Carlton, the 2 ways that you can book that would be straight through the hotel. Or Sarah, you found you can actually book some of these condos at the Ritz through Airbnb?
Yes. So it didn't, they weren't available when we were booking for New Year's Eve. So I didn't see this option. But in hindsight, I looked at Airbnb and just at variable times, and there are Ritz-Carlton condos that are owned, and those individuals rent them out on Airbnb. And I love this option because you still get the amenities and the service of the Ritz-Carlton, which in my mind is top notch, and I love staying at Ritz-Carltons. But they're offered up on Airbnb, so it is a more affordable choice depending on timing. So I was able to find a 1-bedroom Ritz-Carlton condo on Airbnb for us and a 3-bedroom Ritz-Carlton condo on Airbnb for you all.
Right.
And if we would have planned this trip in March versus New Year's Eve, we could have stayed at the Ritz-Carlton for a cheaper price point than staying at the Northstar condo.
That's crazy. And that's the way we got to do it next time. Because
for sure.
That's the
100%.
sweet spot. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
Yep. So that was the research that we like to do, is booking trips usually pretty far out. And because we planned this so quickly, we weren't able to. But going forward, this is how we want to optimize our trips and create the vacation that we really want for our families.
Yeah.
Planning is key.
That's true. I do think, though, that the condos we stayed in, they were still really nice.
Yes.
I thought that the view from your building, which you stayed at the Schaefer's Mill building, I thought that view of the center of the village was beautiful and magical, and
it was so breathtaking.
gorgeous.
Like when you looked out of our balcony, just the mountains are so breathtaking, and we were able to look down on the center of the resort, and it was beautiful because it was right after Christmas.
Yeah.
All the lights were still up, and we had a view of the Christmas tree. And every evening after the kids went to bed, my husband and I would like bundle up and sit on that balcony and drink hot toddies. And it was really special. And I loved that. That was probably my favorite part of where we stayed.
Yeah, I would say I loved your view. We stayed at One Village Place, which was right next door. It's a building right next door to yours. I would say it was very nice. Like I think our unit was actually for sale when we were there, and it was like a $2 million unit for a 3-bedroom condo there. So it was a really beautiful unit.
Yes.
I will say our view is not the same. So we just looked out at the road and looked out at your building, basically. That was our view. So, and actually the distance, I know, right? And the distance actually from like our building to your building was enough to just kill us, because going through all the snow, and they were doing their best there to keep all that snow cleaned up, but they just couldn't keep up. So we're walking through all those snowbanks, trying to get these little kids all bundled up with snow boots that don't fit and stuff over them just to get to your building, and then continue on to the gondola. Just forget about it. It was a difficult walk, I would say, just to get to you.
Yes. I think that's a good point, is that the Schaefer's Mill building, when you look at a map of Northstar Resort, it doesn't seem like any building is better than the next. They all seem relatively close to the gondola. But the Schaefer's Mill building, when it has been a big snowstorm and you have 5 children under the age of 8,
every step counts.
Yes, it literally does.
Yeah, that's so funny. I also had an interesting experience upon check-in to my unit. So we checked in, and it just smelled vaguely of BO. Like, I mean, it was a beautiful unit, but it was just like a little stinky. And my husband was like, well, this is what you get when you go skiing. Things are going to stink because people are sweating, and that's just the way it is. I'm like, okay, I'll get past it. And then one of the rooms actually really smelled of BO. And in that room behind the bed, I found an empty bottle of peppermint schnapps. I was like, okay, I was like, I can totally see some teenage kid in here just all sweaty and stinky from having gone skiing. And he snuck the peppermint schnapps and downed it and just hid it behind the bed, and somehow housekeeping missed it.
Oh my God.
I know.
Ew, I'm having flashbacks of high school. Schnapps is like the worst.
It's like, what do we have here?
Oh,
okay.
It's like hairspray mixed with mint.
I know. It's gross. Yeah, it's gross. But yeah, other than that, I thought the units were really nice, and super key was like, I didn't know this before, because again, coming from Florida, it's not something I'd be like, oh, is this there? But they had heated parking under the condos. And that's
Yes.
great because you're coming in from freezing weather with ice. And if you had to leave your car outside overnight, I mean, you would just have to dig yourself out. I don't know what you
Yes.
would do, or just leave it there until it until you have to go. I don't really know what people do there, but that was great to have that heated parking underneath. Walking distance to restaurants in the gondola was great. There was a hot tub that was available to us that we didn't end up being able to use, that we brought swimsuits for. That was in a different building that you could go use if you wanted to do that. Yeah, so overall, it had a lot of nice amenities. It was a nice place to stay.
It is a nice place to stay. I do think like it doesn't have the service aspect
Yes.
that staying at like the Ritz would have. It does. There were no room service options. So, I think that at the time of booking, I understood that and I was okay with that. In retrospect, for the money we spent, because of the timing we chose, we should have had a much more elevated experience.
Yeah.
I definitely would go back and stay at Northstar Resort. I would stay in the same condo we stayed in. I would just, make some improvements, bring more food with me, and have different expectations, and not try to go on New Year's Eve. But
Yeah.
overall, it's a beautiful resort. It's just a different type of trip.
Right. Well, and we should get into like exactly what happened because, that was crazy too. So we both went with the intention, one, to have a sparkle party for New Year's Eve. We all bought new sparkle dresses to wear.
Yes.
Eric brought his velvet jacket he was going to wear. So we were all ready for a sparkle party. And then we wanted to ski. Really, that was the whole goal, was to take the kids skiing and or snowboarding for the first time, at least on our side. My kids have never tried any of that.
Yes. Yeah, those were our expectations. So the fact that we on our end had such a emotional and scary a trip in, we got to you guys, to your unit, probably around like 7 p.m. We ended up wandering over, and we just punted the sparkle party because there was no way that I was getting into this sparkle dress and getting my girls all dressed.
Yeah.
We were tired and we were cold. So I think our sparkle party was super ambitious.
Yeah, it was ambitious.
I'm like,
It wasn't going to really happen, probably, looking back on it, unless we were in the same building and we'd have to walk outside.
If we were like next door to each other.
Right.
I mean, we both love to dress up.
Yeah.
I love any excuse to dress up, like
Me
dress up
too.
fancy, dress in a costume. So the intent was good, and our girls love to dress up, but the reality of how cold it was.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't going to happen.
It wasn't. But nonetheless, we still had the hope that tomorrow night, the next night, maybe we'll do it then. Tonight, you guys did come over. You had a glazed look on your eyes. I could tell you guys have been through it. And we just hung out and had pizza and wine, and that was perfect.
It was
actually
fun.
That was perfect.
It was.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
And I love that we didn't give up hope on the sparkle party. Throughout the whole trip, we kept saying, okay, well, maybe tomorrow night. Maybe, and then we even at the end of the trip said, well, let's do it when we get home.
I still have the dresses. I never returned them.
Me too. Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do a new sparkle in July. New Year's Eve party.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, we should
let's
totally
wear
do
them. Wear them in our living rooms next New Year's Eve.
Okay,
because we're
good
not
plan.
going anywhere.
Oh gosh, yeah. Let's stay home.
Yeah.
Okay, but so the problems were, so that first day we woke up the next day and we said, let's go skiing, and went outside, and the gondola wait was 3 hours long.
I know. Is that so crazy? What we learned was because of the snowstorm, many other resorts were closed. And also because of the snowstorm, the staffing at Northstar was bare bones. So because of those two reasons, the gondola wait was 3 hours, which was just never going to work for 5 little girls.
Right.
Which I think... to go back a little bit, we had planned that morning to meet downstairs And
Oh.
we were thinking we were just gonna like
Yeah.
grab our gear and hop right on the gondola and be up for the day. So we had bought the passes and everything, and I knew as so we had our gear. The four of us and my family were snowboarding. We have our gear. It's not that much gear for snowboarding, right? We've got the boots on and it's just the board and the helmets, but we're standing outside waiting for you guys, and I look down the path and you're walking, and I think you're carrying your 3-year-old, and your 8-year-old and your 6-year-old are kind of trudging along, and your husband is standing in the back, and it looks like he's carrying. I mean, it looked like something out of a movie. Like
It was that bad.
That Chevy Chase would be
Yes.
like carrying off.
Yeah.
But he was carrying just like all of these mismatched skis and helmets and bags and extra boots and.
Yeah, the
I
steam
could
coming
tell you
out
were
of his
struggling.
ears was palpable. And I was like struggling so hard because the 3-year-old didn't want to be put down and couldn't walk. And she had these heavy boots on, these ski boots. And the other two also had their ski boots on. And I had my ski boots on because I thought we were all going to go skiing. And so I'm walking, and my boots are so heavy, and we were just so loaded down with gear and kids that it was like, what are we doing this to ourselves for? I mean, and just the walk again from our building, which is right next door to yours, was enough to have that. I mean, it was so hard.
I could see it, the pain on your face, and I was like, oh no.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I think that you having one extra child than us, and then having 4 of you on skis
All that gear.
versus we just had a snowboard. It's so different.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, we both like to live life glass half full. We're both really positive, which is why I think we're attracted to each other in the beginning. And we know that as the moms, our mood kind of affects the mood of the collective.
It's
right?
true.
It's a lot of pressure to put on ourselves, but it just is. It's facts.
Yep, it's facts.
So
that's how it is. Yep.
It is. So I think we were being really positive, and while we were trying to figure out a plan between the 4 adults, the sweetest thing happened. All the girls just started playing and having a blast with just this giant snowbank.
Yeah.
Just this like random giant like mountain of snow that the resort had pushed to the side, and they're so little.
So
they
sweet.
didn't.
Yeah.
It was so sweet. They were making snowmen and snowballs and cracking up laughing, and you would think that they were up doing what they were supposed to be doing because they just thought it was the best thing ever.
I know. It's such a good point because we make it so that we have these big expectations of all this stuff that's got to happen. The simplest things make them happy. And just, I mean, I am glad that that whole experience just getting to you didn't sour the day, because as soon as I got to you, it was like positivity, happiness again, and we just jumped right back into it, and it was fine. But yeah, it was really sweet. I was so glad to see them just like having like so much fun with the smallest thing, just like a snowbank. Yeah, it was really fun.
And I think it's like good for us to remember just for future trips that they're so little, and these small experiences are enough for them.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to a point where it needs to be more, and where we have teenagers that we're like riding down mountains with. But right now with these little kids, we can make big moments out of little experiences.
Yeah, agreed. Yep, totally. And those tend to be,
which is good.
Yeah, I know. And those tend to be something you can do like in the moment. And that's basically what we did. We had to pivot.
Yes.
We said, you know what? Kids play in the snow. Let's have fun. Most of the restaurants were not open because nobody could get to the mountain to open.
Yes.
Nobody could get to the village. And so Dave found a little convenience store that was right on campus, and he found some frozen ravioli and boxed mac and cheese, and we made the most of it for lunch over at yours.
Yes.
So that was fun. And then when you asked me my favorite part of the trip, it was between the next part, the sledding, and the Ritz, because the sledding, we decided to go sledding after that. And we found like some random place to go sledding. Dave found it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think when we had talked about sledding, we had gone before with my first daughter when she was about 3, and we knew of this great place to go sledding, but you'd have to drive to it. And so we had, of course, these ideas of grandeur. And once we saw that we weren't going to be able to drive anywhere because of the snowstorm, we still wanted to sled. So Dave kind of trekked around the resort because they're little, they don't need much. And he found a spot. So it was like on the end of the resort where just a bunch of snow had been pushed and there were some hills. And there was a big sign that said, no sledding.
No sledding. And we said that means we can go sledding here.
Yeah, that's right where we went sledding. It was perfect.
It was. And it was right at the base of where all the skiers were coming back to the village. So it's like right where they would go at the very end, but it wasn't terribly steep.
No.
So we had a great time sledding with the kids and just being goofy and fun for a while. And my 8-year-old actually got to start trying her snowboard because she's never skied or snowboarded. And she decided she wanted to snowboard on this trip. So she brought her snowboard and just practiced right there on the mountain, just going up and down at that, not very steep part of the end of the run. And she had a great time. She actually got some pointers
great.
from you guys. Yeah, I was impressed. I was like, wow, this is great. She had a good time doing that. And so, yeah, that ended up fine. And actually, I think that's a really good place for newbies to try snowboarding and sledding because it wasn't terribly crowded. And honestly, you don't even need a lift ticket to do that, do you?
No, it was free.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so much fun. My oldest daughter, even she was sledding down, and she was like making her own tricks. She created something called the whirly bird, where she was like spinning while she was sliding down without a sled, just on her own. And she, to this day, a few months later, she talks about that almost daily. Like that was her moment of this trip, and the freedom of just like playing and sliding down this hill. And that was free. We could have done that. Without buying the lift tickets that we had bought that I think were $200 a person.
Yeah. But we at least got to use them the next day, but
we did. Yes.
Well, some of us did. I mean, I got to go up, but we'll get there. And then I wanted to mention that fire pit. So after we went sledding, we went to the fire pit and I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the s'mores because you knew about this before we came and it was just great.
I did. Yep. I knew from being there prior that they do free s'mores around 3 or 4 p.m. Every afternoon. They'll pass out some more kits. But what I learned after the fact, so kind of a pro tip, is that we kind of hung out by the fire pit a little longer than we probably would have because we were waiting for the s'more kits. And I learned after the fact that the little convenience store that is on the property, they sell the s'more kits. So in retrospect, we could have ran over and just bought them and had them whenever we wanted them. Or if you're there at the right time or you want to wait for the free ones, it's around 3 or 4 every day. They pass them out, and our girls just had so much fun.
They did. I did too. It was fun sitting out there and watching them do their s'mores and getting warmed up and things like that.
Yeah, and there was live music, which
that was cool.
That was really cool. My 3-year-old is really, she just loves live music, and she was just like dancing and watching the band and. It was really special. That was a special edition.
Yeah, that was cute. And then we said, let's not do the sparkle party tonight because we just got so tired, I think, being out there sledding and doing the s'mores and all of that. So we went back to our own units that night for dinner.
Right. We still didn't cancel the sparkle party. We said we're just going to postpone it.
Yeah. We're like, we'll just do it again. We'll try again tomorrow night. I will say we had food problems that night. There was still not really any way to find any. The restaurants weren't open really, except for the pizza place, and we had just ordered there from the night before. I tried to place an order with them again because that was the only thing open, and they were so slammed that they stopped taking orders. So we went back to that convenience store and found some more just, prepackaged food for dinner. Not ideal. I really wished we would have had more options for food, but I think it was a storm issue. I also think it's an issue of like most people probably go out to eat at night. And we have little kids and they're just like tuckered out. And so it's so much easier just to go grab food and bring it back. And that doesn't, most of the restaurants I called weren't going to do that. They weren't going to let you do an order for takeout. So,
yes,
at least
that's disappointing. And I think that was probably like one of our top struggles with this trip is just the food issues. We were able to get an order in to the pizza place that night. I wish we would have known that you guys didn't. Because we just ordered a big salad and I think one pizza, and it took a really long time to get it, but it was fine. But I think that our issues with food on this trip will really teach us that next time we go, one, staying somewhere that offers room service would be nice.
That would be so nice.
The Ritz does.
Yeah. One more point for the Ritz.
Yes. And then also just coming more prepared because like you had mentioned earlier, we had all intentions of getting into Tahoe and going to Safeway in Kings Beach, which we've done every single time that we've gone to Tahoe, and stocking up because, of course, each of our rooms had full kitchens and we wanted to have fresh fruits and veggies and food that our kids liked.
Exactly.
But because of that storm, we weren't able to do that. So we were both pretty bare bones. I do bring stuff to make smoothies most trips, and my girls really love those. So I bring the Vega packets, and you just mix it with ice and water, and it makes these really delicious smoothies. And I swear that's what was keeping us sane on this trip. We were having a smoothie like 3 times a day.
Oh, that's smart. I think I got like the last box of grapes that were being sold. There's like one. There was just one at the convenience store. It's like grapes. They were not organic. And I bought those, and they were like $10. I'm not kidding. And I brought them back, and nobody would eat them because they were too squishy. They were just so old. And yeah, I know. So I had bars and stuff like that, but that's just not enough for my kids. They are so hungry and eat all day long, and it was just really hard to make sure that they were getting enough food.
Right. And enough healthy food because like
exactly.
so much of our mood is based on nutrients. So yeah, next time we go, because we drive there, I'm definitely bringing a full ice chest and
cooler.
A full
Yes,
and a dry bag of food.
Yep. Agreed.
But with that said, this is the only time that this has happened to me. I've never not been able to get to a grocery store in Tahoe, so
Sure.
hopefully that wouldn't happen again. But better safe than sorry, because we learned our lesson this time.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to have this happen to me again. Another thing I'm going to over prepare for.
Yes.
Okay, and then so day 2, we actually got to use our passes from the day before to get up the mountain. At least the guys got to get in a few runs in the morning before they came back to get us.
Yeah, I think that was good for them. So we sent, so our husbands went out early in the morning to go mine snowboards and your skis, and they went out to get some runs in and kind of just scope out what the deal was for that day. So before we got the girls all geared up, because it is quite an endeavor to get this age child and multiple children in their snow gear.
That was the most, I mean, just getting them all in the snow gear alone and then getting them to that gondola was so hard, and I can't even, and people looked at us like we were crazy because we were doing it with little kids.
Oh my gosh, people were pointing and laughing. And you know, I I love to do things with my kids that other people are not doing with their kids. Like I like to be like, we can do this. Like I'm going to show them the world.
Yeah.
Like
it's like a point of pride. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have all these experiences, but this one was aggressive.
Yeah, it was aggressive, and in the end, it's not fun if you're not having fun. And I'll say this for me, that walk, getting the kids there was just like, I don't know if this is worth it, And I think I looked at you guys and I said, okay, next time we're staying at the Ritz, because we need more service. I mean, just getting all those kids to the gondola. And with all that equipment, it was a hard one.
Well, and I think you said too that next time you want to try snowboarding.
Yes.
Because
good
you were able to
memory.
see that, like, our family, we had an easier time, even though it was still challenging getting all the gear and getting up the mountain. It was much easier with less equipment.
Yeah.
And one less child.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is, like, my 3-year-old was really, like, losing it the whole time. Just getting to the gondola, she was just bawling. I mean, she hated it. She hated it. She was so cold. She couldn't walk. She hated her boots. Nobody can even walk in their boots. So we're carrying ski boots and bags, all the skis, and the kids, and they're wearing their snow boots to get to the gondola. So again, all of this together is just like, we took on too much.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Although once the husbands had gone in the morning to scope everything out, and they did some runs, and I think that was good because the rest of their day was like really lugging gear and helping the kids up. But that they knew then that once we got up the mountain, because they had already been up there, that it was going to be crowded, but there still would be space for the girls to learn and for us to ride with them. So we got up to the mountain, and I had brought my snowboard because I had hoped that I would be able to snowboard with my girls and kind of show them. In retrospect, I didn't get on my board at all because I was holding their hands and running next to them.
Yeah.
But, it's good for them to see that I have a board too. And next time, I feel like the next time I'll be able to be at a place where I get on the board. But this was the most special moment of the trip for me. My girls had so much fun. They don't mind the cold. They love the snow. And we went to the exact spot that I learned how to snowboard. So that was really special. And they rode a magic carpet up, and then we were holding their hands and running down with them. My husband did put on his board, and he was kind of showing them how to snowboard. And they were just full of pride that they were learning something new. The sun was shining. It was very crowded, which it was more crowded than I've ever seen it up on that mountain. But the energy was fun and exciting for them. And I know your 2 older daughters, they seem to be feeling that as well.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you guys all had a great time. I got up the gondola. I mean, we went up the gondola to the mountain, and my 3-year-old just went from bad to worse, and she's just screaming. And I don't like her being like that. I don't like to see her like that. I know that she's normally a very sweet, controlled, just the sweetest 3-year-old, I think, ever. And precious. And I just hate to see her that upset. And so we got up there, and I was just like, you know what? This is not working. We're turning around, and we're going to go to the Ritz. And I said, you want to go to the Ritz and go get food and go pick out a toy somewhere? And she's like, yes. I want to go shopping. I want food. Let's go to the Ritz. She doesn't know what the Ritz is, but she knew maybe the way I was saying it. It was a good thing to go do this. Yeah. So we left you guys and went back down the gondola, went down the ride. And I think we left Eric with all that equipment. I was like, forget this. I'm not carrying. So I think he had even more to carry back down the mountain.
Wait, you didn't take your skis with you?
No. I left it all. I was like, I have the 3-year-old, and that's enough for me. I could not carry. I was like, physically, I was hurting. My muscles were hurting from carrying. I was like, well, they've got to get it down the mountain somehow, so I'll just leave it here. But we went down.
Well, your mom instinct kicked in.
Yeah.
And if I was in your position, I would have done the same thing. Like when your child is in pain with where they are at, you got to get them out of there.
Yeah, they've got to change something quick because that's our job. But I know that the other two had a great time on the bunny hill, and they were doing their skiing and they were doing their snowboarding with Eric. And I saw videos you sent me, so thanks for sending all that. That was really sweet to see. We were up at the Ritz at the outdoor barbecue place. So the nice thing about, I complained a lot about our building. One nice thing about our building, it is the building that was connected to the gondola that takes you up to the Ritz. So that's a really nice place to be if you want to end up at the Ritz, which I thought that was actually perfect for me. And we took that gondola up, and another pointer that I got when we were on that gondola going to the Ritz is that locals know when when Northstar gets that crowded, like so crowded that it takes a really long time to get up the lifts, they'll go do this other gondola and just ski down the mountain between the Ritz and Northstar Village and just do that over and over again because there's no wait for that gondola. And I think it's free.
It's free.
Okay.
It is free. And that is an incredible pro tip. When we did go up that gondola eventually to meet you at the Ritz, you had already texted me that, and I was watching the skiers and snowboarders do that. And I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. This is what we're going to do next time.
Yeah.
Not just because it's free. I don't mind putting money into something that's a great experience, but because it's simple. It's a shorter gondola ride. It's significantly less crowded, and it's a decent mountain. So I think when my girls are a little bit more skilled at snowboarding, this would be fun to do with kids.
Yeah.
This ride.
Yeah. I thought it was great. So I was like, okay, I'm going to remember that. So yeah, we're optimizing for that next trip. It's already in my mind as we're going up this gondola. Like, okay, now we know to do this next time. And then we got to the outdoor barbecue area, and it was great.
So beautiful.
Yeah, lots of fire pits everywhere. It's cold up there and a little bit windy. So do wear your snow pants. I think I took mine off to go up there. So I had wished I had them on. But besides that, it was great. And they had truffle mac and cheese that was like
yum,
so delicious. And I thought you guys were coming relatively soon. So I went ahead and ordered my whole family food so that it was there when you guys got there. My kids get hangry when they get hungry. And so I know, like, feed them before they get to that point. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have it prepared. But then you guys took a little while longer to come because I think you had to get down the gondola from Northstar and then back up onto the gondola up to Ritz. It took a little time. And it was just astounding to me to have the level of service that they have there. At the exact time that I needed it. I was at the end of my rope. I'm sitting there with a whole bunch of food, and we're outside, so the food's getting cold, and the waiter comes by and he says, do you want me to take that for you and bring it in and keep it under the heat lamps until your family comes? And I'm like, oh, thank you. Yes, like such a nice thing to do, for somebody.
Yes.
So I just really appreciated the extra help because we need it right now with these little kids. Like any extra little help you can get here and there, it's so appreciated. Well,
and I love how that extra level of service is just to be expected at any Ritz, right? Like we love to go to the Ritz in Santa Barbara and the Ritz in Maui and so on, and it is always the same. And you just know that they're going to think of things that you maybe didn't even think of that just make your experience that much better.
I know. And let's just talk about the property for a second. That the whole building, I mean, it's just like Craftsman, beautiful. Oh, it's gorgeous. And where they have the outdoors, it's breathtaking. Where they have the outdoor seating is on the mountain with all these trees, and it was just gorgeous. I just sat there and was like, I am in heaven. I also had a glass of wine. That also helped after all the screaming I'd put up with. And my daughter was happy too because she got to eat some food. She was nice and warm. And then she laid down and took a nap on my lap just outside while we were waiting for you. Yeah. So she needed food. She needed a nap. We needed warmth. And we got all of that from the Ritz in addition to service. So hands down, I'm sold. I mean, now that I've gone, I'm like, this is just it.
Yeah.
So it was amazing.
Also, we saw their hot tub right there. It looked really fun. It was.
I know.
I think one of the reasons we didn't go to the hot tub at Northstar was because it was in a different building.
Yeah.
And
Can you imagine kids like running in swimsuits between buildings
No.
and like 10-degree weather
No.
to get to a hot tub? It's just not
Right.
gonna happen.
It's not practical.
Right.
But at the Ritz, we saw the hot tub was right there. We're like, oh, wow. So if you're staying here, you just like exit the lobby and there's the hot tub. You're probably only walking outside for 20 feet.
Right.
Which that's key.
Yeah, that is key. And they
Yeah.
also had little stuffed animals for sale and little toys for sale
Yeah.
inside the little store area where you rent all your gear. That's
Mm-hmm.
another thing they have there. I keep thinking of all the good things. They have on-site rentals. So you just go there and you rent your equipment straight from them. You put it on, you go straight outside to the mountain. And then from there, you just get right onto a gondola. It's like,
Yes.
oh, everything is right here. And that's just, that next time, that's going to be so much easier.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great.
It was great. I want some of that mac and cheese right now.
I know. That stuff is good.
It was so good.
It was so good.
So I think that after that day, we punted on the sparkle party again.
That was the last night to do it.
That was the last night.
We give up.
We knew.
Yeah.
And we also knew at that point that we had been overzealous in planning anything in the evenings because being on a snow vacation where there were lots of activities throughout the day and it was cold, at the end of the night, my kids, we just wanted to get them in a warm bubble bath, have some warm food, read books, watch a show, and go to bed. We did not want to be doing anything else. So I think in the future, we will know not to plan anything in the evenings.
Yeah.
That we just want to have that be rest time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so. How did you guys end your night that night? Did you get food or?
So yeah, we didn't get food again, unfortunately. I think I went to the convenience store that night. And I don't know. It was crazy. Like it was still crammed packed. It was just so crowded and there were lines all the way through the village to get onto buses to go back to where you came from that night. Like it was, people were out there waiting for so long. So there was just so many people, there was just no food, and we went to the convenience store again that night. I don't think we were that hungry because we had the mac and cheese for lunch, but kids they just still need something to eat. Even if you think I'm not hungry, they still are. My kids are. So, yeah. What about you guys? Did you guys get food somewhere?
Well, I think that we were pretty full from the food we had at the Ritz, but and I did put some stuff together from our unit for my girls to have like a proper dinner. So a little bit of fruits and veggies that we had left. And I think I just made them a mac and cheese again. And
Yeah.
Dave and I didn't have anything. But I think that is like my biggest takeaway from this trip is to being more prepared with food when traveling to Tahoe.
I'd say so, yeah. And even not staying on Northstar, when I've stayed on North Shore in houses and stuff, I've always had trouble finding food for pickup. Like restaurants will be open for you to come in and eat there, but they're not open for pickup. And we tend to have that situation where like kids go to bed at 7. It's like you got to get food in them and stuff, and it's so much easier to do just at the unit. So I think from now on, I'll definitely bring a ton of food. I've learned this lesson a couple times now. So we'll do that for sure.
Yeah. I'm really proud of us for planning a trip together after only knowing each other a couple months.
I know it was ambitious of us,
think
and it was so much fun. That part turned out great.
It was so much fun. I don't want the food issues and the logistic issues to outweigh that. It was fun. We were really silly. We were cracking up laughing. Our girls together are adorable.
Yeah.
My girls remember the trip so fondly. I have the videos of them snowboarding with your girls for the first time, and my oldest daughter wants to watch it all the time. She's like, "Show me the video of me and your older daughter snowboarding," and just the pride. And I also think like what a gift for us to be giving them the knowledge of a sport early on. I only wish that I would have had that for myself. That having to learn these types of skills as an adult, it's so much more challenging. And so it was really special for them to be in this experience, learning something new so young.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, we got to know each other even better on that trip, and our families got to spend time together, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous.
It was so beautiful.
It was so pretty. So, well, why don't we think about like what our takeaway messages would be for this trip? So going forward, I think my number one would be stay at the Ritz. And I think it's brilliant that you found that you can rent those condos at the Ritz from Airbnb and save some dough. So win-win.
Yes. That is definitely a win-win. I think also renting equipment at the Ritz would be ideal. We own our own snowboarding equipment, my husband and I, but our girls, we rented it for them just at a local shop, and we brought it up there, and lugging it from the garage to the condo to the gondola, that's a lot. So when we saw that rental equipment is available at the Ritz, you just go to that location, you pick it up, they put it on the snow for you, and you're able to go from there. That, with this many children, that would be so much more ideal.
Yeah, and tagging on to that, this is just a go forward for us. I'm going to switch everybody to snowboarding. Because it's even better for less equipment, then that's great. I want to make it as easy as possible to have more fun. So
I love that.
Stuff. Yeah.
I love that.
I think another takeaway would be we can time our vacations a little differently, because there were price differences for the Ritz and the condos we were staying at, depending if we were going to go on New Year's Eve or not. Big price differences. So, and I don't mind going on off time or off peak. That doesn't bother me. We don't live terribly far away. I don't mind pulling the kids out of school if we need to. I just think it would be better for prices and getting more bang for buck for where you're staying, and having less crowds would be fantastic. Seeing it be so crowded on the slopes makes me think like off time would maybe be fantastic. It'd be a great way to, I don't know, just get more space and room. And
I agree. I think that less crowds makes for a better experience in general anywhere with smaller children. Also, with us speaking to wanting service, you just inevitably you get more service when there's less crowds.
Good point.
So let's never go anywhere besides each other's houses on New Year's Eve again.
Deal. I agree with that. And I think the last thing would be bring lots of food. Bring food from home and you'll be totally fine.
Yes.
Yeah, just go prepared. Now we know, and we will. So
we will. And I think that in general, going anywhere with kids, I'm like, my oldest daughter is 6. Why don't I bring more food anywhere that I go? But I think that they're as they get a little bit older, they just need more food, and it just helps stabilize their mood and more healthy food.
Yes,
because it is pretty easy to find a muffin or a croissant or a carby option or a high sugar option, but those are going to be quick energy and big crashes for little kids.
Yes.
And maintaining a stable mood with foods from home and healthier foods is just so important.
That goes for pretty much any trip. Yeah.
I know. We'll have to remember that on our next trip.
I know.
But I think that this trip deserves a do-over.
I do too. We got to do it again.
Maybe next year in March.
Okay. Yeah, deal. That sounds great. We'll do it.
And we'll stay at the Ritz.
Yay! That sounds fantastic. Well, I think that does it for this episode. Thanks everybody for listening in. This is a lot of fun to unpack.
It was a lot of fun. And I think that in general, we love to speak to things that we've become experts in. But of course, if there's a blooper or there is something funny or something that we thought we were an expert in and then turns out we weren't, we're going to have to share it with you all. So Thank you for tuning in, and please rate, like, and subscribe, and catch us on Instagram at Platinum Perspective Podcast.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.